There's nothing like your presence, Lord. That's all I want to worship you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to be with you. Nothing like your presence, Lord. Just to worship you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord, all I want is to be. It's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to worship you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to be with you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to worship you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to be with you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. Wish to all I want is to be with you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to worship you. Nothing like your presence, Lord.
Is that a sincere one? I don't know alternatives. I don't know rivals. No competition. Are you sure that? Are you saying that with all your heart? As you sing, I'll make sure you take it from the depth of your heart. All I want
your presence, Lord.
All I want
is to be
just to be like you.
Your presence,
to carry the essence
all I want is to
of the
worship.
divine
There's nothing like
as an extension
your presence, Lord.
of who you are.
All I want
For as he is, so are we in this world.
your presence, Lord.
Can you pray as we sing it on?
To worship you.
That God will release himself into you today.
Presence, Lord.
God is looking for channels.
Is to be with you.
He wants to flow.
Like your presence, Lord.
He wants the world to know him.
Is to worship you. There's nothing like.
And what you can show to the world is what you have been shown by the Lord. Can you ask him to show him who lives on the throne to you now? And in seeing him, to start reflecting him.
All I want is to worship you. There's nothing like your presence, Lord. All I want is to be with you.
Amen. Father, we know the essence of being with you is to be like you and to be for you. In your appointment of those men, the Bible says you selected 12, but they might be with you, and so that they can go for you. to be for you. Our world needs to see you. Our world needs to access you. For the larger part of humanity, there is that unbelief about who you are. They want to know, they're looking to see. And what you desire is that as you desire to channel yourself and flow into the earth realm, that you might find us usable. This is not just bringing words together, Lord. This is a desire that some of us carry beyond the words, which is often bankrupt. Never been enough to express the feeling that we have. Please, in your mercy, it may look strange to a generation. It may look strange to people whose hearts are directed in the opposite that you will have us go. But Lord, we choose to be a generation that will seek you. And this is that generation that will seek the Lord, that will seek your face, O God of Jacob. Those who seek the face of God, the Bible is after the order of Jacob, are those who are willing to give anything just to see you. And no matter what's crushing them, no matter what is pressing them, no matter the discomfort, even to the point of dislocations, they're saying whatever bones must be broken, whatever must be lost, I will not let you go except you bless me. In blessing me, you can keep on breaking me, but Lord, I want a blessing. There are daughters in this place and sons whose hearts have been longing for you. Some of them do not know what they are looking for. They just know there's something they have not met, something they have not found. They don't know what to say about it. They don't know how to describe it, but it is real. And you are the God who searches by your spirit the deep things. You know our heart's desire. You know how some of us are dissatisfied with everything we have gotten, and all we want, just your presence. Please grant us today, and let the release from what you will reveal become our possession. We don't want to leave this space the way we came, Lord. Many of us had to struggle through, weathering through storms, even literally going through the rain, pushing ourselves to this place. Some are still stuck on the way because of how the traffic situation has made it difficult to have a thoroughfare. We can't come and seek you in vain. We can't expend time and energy and just go back and say, yes, I was at the prophetic portal. Please open the portals. Release what you have allocated for today. And because you have been lifted, let everyone be loaded. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I want to welcome you to the prophetic portal. Every day is unique in God's arrangement, and what He intends to do is not what any man should, for whatever reason, try to predict. What defines life is that presence. I will intend by God's grace to do our part. I will step into where He wants us to be. There's been a sequence in our series we have been treating all this while, and it's a kind of successive presentation of the letters of the Greek alphabet that we know very well. And you trace this back to the beginning, you have seen a time together. The concepts are not isolated. We see how they relate and how they correlate. And the recent ones, remembering Omicron, you find it means stability, sustainability of an entity, a wholeness, a continuum, like a circle. And it's very important to know that how that applies to us is to see the stability, the sustainability, the solidity, and the security we can have in times of uncertainty, times of negativity, times of adversity. We need that part to carry on through the journey for life, because we're going to come sometimes to seasons and times where things will threaten our existence. You need the Omicron dimension to know that even if there's death and there's famine. Can you step down that a little, the back up, the back? We will have the grace that God dispenses for us every single time we declare our need of it. And so we come to the throne of grace because we are propelled by the need of the hour. Grace will not ordinarily just look around looking for you. You need to access it, and it's in that presence of God. Interestingly, the last time we see how it connects to Jesus' pie, and that for us has been rightly designated as partnerships. And from the partnerships we derive the power to prosper. And it's very interesting that beyond the scientific and the mathematical applications we have, it's very practicable in life to see not just the mathematical or the metaphorical dimension to this, but we know that we need partnerships to enter into profitability in life. It is not good for some things to be alone, and God will necessarily supply that need. So while Omicron means entity of an individual unit that you can see in the continuum, Jesus' pi and the pi letter is something that has to do with a united pair, partnerships. So we come today to the 17th letter of the Greek alphabet, this letter RHO. RHO. For the ancient Greeks, what it means is a flow. A flow that becomes an outflow. And the outflow that progresses to become an overflow. There's a sequence. There is a flow, there's an outflow, and the continuity of the outflow results in an overflow. So it's spilling over. And the science behind the very essence of RHO for us is something that takes us to come to try to understand the fact that there's a stream. If there's a stream and that stream flows and then it overflows eventually when it has its outflow, the flow may not be known while it is just happening at a subterranean level, but once it comes to the surface, it is understood to be seen as an outflow. It flows from inside, it flows out, and then when it becomes an overwhelming measure, we call it overflow. That's a surplus level. The picture we have there is a river that flows at a level, but because it finds a lesser height, you find the beauty is known. And that's the beauty of waterfalls. If the topography remains plain all through, it will just be a river. But when the river in its course in a way moves, come to a depression, and the lower the depression, the better the beauty you see, the higher the impact, and the more intense the power it can generate if you can channel that thing to hydroelectric power generating plant. So as the cascading takes place and it goes down, we call it a waterfall. It was not a waterfall until it reached the place where it falls. And so there is a source which is not our subject here, but look at those three branches of the water. The same water spread into three. It's going to come because there is a surge somewhere that has propelled the source. And when that source is allowed to remain the way it was meant to be, no obstruction, no blockage, it reaches a point where you have what is called surplus. I'm taking us from what seems unknown to the known, or the known to the unknown, whichever way, so we can understand what nature is teaching us and what these letters of the Greek alphabet connects us to. And this makes it very clear. We want to know if there is going to be what we call the processions and the issues of life. The issues there is not matters of life, they are the issues, releases, things that issue out. How do we connect that to procession? And when we say procession, we are taking it to the source. We may never know the source of a river, but you can many times determine from what you see how the source should have been like. The speed of that river sometimes may be gathered over a distance. And there are times when you have seen a massive river, a fast running river, because of the topography, the place where it's going. And then if you trace it, you'll find that it may just be one small source. But the beauty of it is that in the expansion, by the extension of the speed of that river, you can make sure you will never know the speed if something impedes the source. If you block the source, no matter the beauty is on the outward, it will just be out of place. We read in Ezekiel chapter 47 of the river that cascades from the throne of God. It's a river that can heal, that can bring healing, that can bring deliverance, because the source is never polluted. It comes from the throne of God and cascades down. The Bible says it passed through the house to the altar, and it is from the altar you can determine the life of the altar. When things encounter situations that were dead and they begin to live, you know that the healing property of the water is not on its own. There must be a source that brings life. And as we begin to bring this to an understanding of how to apply it right now, we want to challenge ourselves to do everything we need to do as mercy is always available for us, that we do not allow anything to tamper with the source of the surplus that God intends to communicate to the world through us. God is more than eager to show himself. But you know, God will not just be displaying himself in the cloud and show people dreams. We are the people, we are the examples, we are the specimens, we are his teaching aid, we are those property that's going to raise up to say, you want to know me? Look at him. You want to know me? Look at my daughter. That is the pride of God. And that time will come where the Bible says we'll enter a phase where we're not going to be teaching ourselves know God, because everyone will know God. That will not happen until everyone who is there to represent God does the accurate representation of God by carrying the image of God. So we come to the letter RHO, and generally the Greek alphabet, including every letter, find a wide use in mathematics, in science, in engineering, and some other academic fields. Now the letter RHO is written not like an R, it looks like a P, but that's the sound, that is the way it is written. In science, generally The most common use of RHO is to convey, please mark these words, when the science field applies RHO, it is often used to communicate density, to communicate what they call volumetric mass density. The mass and the density that comes from a volume. It's not just density, it's not just mass, it's not just mass density, but volumetric mass density. It means then that the volume will determine necessarily the value. Because if you begin to have a shortage of the volume, the value drops. So it's communicating an abundance that is meant to be sustained. Its mass is something that needs to be matched. The mass of what comes out must be matched by the means of its communication. Because if you have a channel that is very small and you have so much to pass through it, it becomes a problem. In fact, for the first time, I had somebody explain high blood pressure so very well, very accurately, in a program I attended recently, International Friendship League, in my area. Medical doctor, he said, this thing, I mean, any layman will understand that. He brought something and he said, look, it's like your arteries, the channels in your body that conveys blood, is like this. And he brought out a pen and you could see the whole of the pen. He now said, when you begin to eat some things and get into some unhealthy lifestyles, there are things that begin to clog on that thing and it gets narrower and narrower. He now brought one thin pen. He said, look, it's like what was meant to flow through this opening with the volume of the blood and things that should run in your veins is now being congested to become something so tiny. And he said the blood is not reducing the way it's coming, but it's meeting a blocked channel. He said, what will happen? People said there will be tension. And that is what gives rise to high blood pressure. The pressure is more than what is being allowed to go through. And so that is how things begin to shoot up. You say high blood pressure. Very graphic. So you must match the mass with a channel. And that becomes a very critical thing in our spiritual life. When God is willing to do exceeding abundantly, and we have narrowed ourselves so much that it becomes difficult for the passage of revelation, the passage of inspiration, the passage of everything God will charge to the earth realm through you, through me. The source is not reducing, but something has happened to the structures through which it must pass. And that becomes a lament in heaven, that God is willing to do so much, but we are limiting him. And that makes me understand that scripture, Ephesians 3:20. They say God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we can ask or think. But the Bible says it's according to the power that worketh in us. How do we come to understand the basis of procession and what our lives can issue out? I found some of these things very interesting when I studied this and I looked at the field of mathematics and statistics. And I found that lower case you find there represents what is known as correlation coefficient. I had to study this myself eventually. I said, what? Now, mathematicians will not have anything beyond their field on this, but I see how God applies literal, physical, tangible things to spiritual life. And I see that this concept may not have been preached, I've not had it preached, but I found there's something that is correlation coefficient. Mathematicians know that. What is it about? It measures the strength, the direction, and the linear relationships between two variables. And I begin to say, God, how does this apply? And I found that on the two axes of variables, on one side is -1, this side +1. And the Lord said to me, do you know that the worst of kind of life you can live is not even a zero, because there's a possibility to be at the basest of almost no value and yet drop below that, and it's a minus. So RHO is being used here to calculate and measure the strength of the direction. In which direction are you going? And see the linear relationship between two variables. And what are those variables? What are the variables? You know, Jesus Christ spoke about an existence that is below zero. Zero is just nothing. You have zero, you have nothing. But Jesus Christ says there's a life that would have been better to be on zero than to have existed. So if you live a life that does not add a value to God's kingdom and you claim to be part of that kingdom, it is terrible. Jesus Christ was speaking here because this is a life that betrays Jesus. A life that betrays Jesus, that will not allow what God to show to people to manifest. Please follow me. Jesus Christ says, you are the light of the world and you are the salt of the earth. That is your identity. So what's your duty? The salt should normally be in the midst of corruption to preserve it, to preserve life, so that corruption will not affect whatever it is. I grew up those days when they used to kill rams and goats when I was still in the Muslim world, and I remember there were people who had their rams killed for that festival, since they preserved that meat for 2 years. How? They kill what they will kill, give it out, and then the rest they just flay it and spread it out and go and pack salt heavily and pour salt heavy on the thing. For 2 years, 3 years, that meat is preserved. No refrigeration, no fire, just salt. You can't see corruption. The kind of thing you could have left and say in 2 days it begins to rot, decompose. No way. Salt drives corruption. And Jesus Christ said that is what we're supposed to do. You want to channel preservation to the earth realm, and it says you are my salt in this earth. I know the world you live in is corrupt and evil and terrible, but you are salt in the earth. Now when it comes to light of the world, what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to provide illumination. And Jesus Christ says if you fail in that, how do you fail? Men do not light a candle and put it under a bushel. It's betrayal of a function. If you hide your identity, you hide your life, you may not think that is what you are doing, but you are betraying Jesus. If God has not invested in your life virtues and values and things that should make you stand out, no problem. But if God has invested, God has a right to expect return on investment. That men will see your good works and glorify me. God's take about your life is the glory that comes even from people who may not be church people. Let your light so shine that men will see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So how does a life lose value? That you're not just on zero, which is too bad, but Christ is saying there's something worse than being a zero. And when I read that scripture in connection, I was Mark chapter 14 verse 21. It's a life that betrays the investment of God. It's a life that betrays the trust of God. It's a life that betrays the expenditure of heaven upon this life. It's a betrayer life. The one who refuses to stand for Jesus when he ought to, who bends and consents with evil flow. Mark 14:21. The Son of Man indeed goeth as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. Now it says, good were it for that man if he had never been born. It would have been good you were never existing. That may look a hard part, but that's the truth. There's a procession that God wants to make every time. And the correlation you have between the values of -1 and +1 is simply something that requires more calculations, which I'll not go into right now. Those in finance understand what RHO might mean, perhaps. But it refers to that dependence between two rankings of two varieties. You have this figure, you have that figure, you want to balance the account. RHO becomes very critical. And in physics, and I'm going to dwell on a particular word there, because that word for me caught my attention especially. When I studied in physics, I found out the upper case you have, which is like a P, represents, they call it resistivity. A resistance. Resistivity. The capacity to resist. What is the resistance? Now, in physics, when they represent that thing in their equations, it means there's a presence in that thing that can resist the flow of electric current. That material, that substance, when electricity comes, no matter how high powered it is, if that substance is there, there's a resistance to the flow. And I found that in the spiritual life, in applying this, it describes the possibility we have for our soul to have a resistance against the popular flow that is contrary to God. Life has this feature of a flow. We're told in Ecclesiastes that all rivers flow into the sea, and the sea is not full. The Christian life is a life that is established to have a continuous flow. But then as you are flowing, you're going to find the need for you to have resistivity. And that is why we're looking at RHO. How did Jesus do this? Resistivity is not a life that goes into a mode of hypersensitivity where you try to hide from society. The calling of God, the grace of God is not to produce in us isolation. What God tells us to have is separation. We cannot have resistivity by trying to live like hermits or monks and live society so that we can go and be in a place. God will deliberately plant you in the midst of bad people. There's no such place as a Christian school in the real sense, because even the Christian schools and university, when we hear of horror that takes place there, you say, what? We're not in heaven yet. Faith-based school. Some of you perhaps must have seen what was trending in the US, where a woman called a particular staff of that school and said, what am I hearing? My child will be disciplined for what? And they said, because openly in class, this girl told the class that homosexuality is a sin. And the woman said, and that is a Christian school. What does the Bible say? And the woman was defending that. Look, my daughter is not the type that will talk anyhow normally. You asked her to give her opinion in class. She didn't just cut into the conversation. You told her, rise up. What do you think about homosexuality? And the girl said, from the Bible, it is sin, and she was to be punished because she dared to say clearly what the Bible says sin is a sin. And the woman said, no, my daughter will come back home. You can't subject her to that. It was a long conversation. I have the whole audio, and the person on the other end was defending and saying, you know, people are there and all that. I say, what are you talking about? This, we're in a world where you're going to find the need to stand against popular flow. That's why God is going to allow you to go through. You can't prove what you say you have if you never mingle. Light is never known until it is in the midst of darkness. There are lights in this place, you can't appreciate it. The only thing you can appreciate light for maybe beauty. But beyond beauty, in the night, you now see functionality. The beauty of light is in the dark. So you won't excuse your not standing for God, not doing what you should do, because iniquity is everywhere. Jesus Christ said, iniquity will abound, and the love of many shall wax cold. But there's a capacity, there's grace for some people. They can endure to the end, and only those ones shall be saved. Galatians chapter 5 verse 16. This is the secret we have in being able to resist evil flow, because while you want to flow, there are some processions that are contrary. And I certify you that the Bible says, where sin abounded, grace doth much more abound. If you come to a place where the evil flows in the system, I tell you there's a bigger flow inside of you. God will never allow the overwhelming flood of darkness to subdue your flow, because you carry a flow in you. So that's why God says, when you walk through the waters, it will not overflow you, because you carry something bigger than that water. You walk through fire, it won't burn you, because you carry a bigger fire. You don't destroy fire with fire. It's when you lack the substance that is flammable that water consumes you. So you consciously realize that there is a flow of worldliness that will always be contrary to that of godliness. There is a flow of the carnal nature that will always go against the spiritual nature. And so that brings you to understanding that you have to be conscious and conscientious and continuous in your commitment to establish this dimension of a life that has a procession, always issuing out the life of God, Zoe. Galatians 5:16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusted, say flow, a striving together, one flow against the other flow, and we're caught in between. But what you yield yourself to is going to determine how much we're going to experience in the battle of negative flows. It says the flesh lusted against the spirit, and the spirit lusted against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you will. How do you successfully live the spiritual life? How do you experience the overflow of God's glory? You need to practice the discipline of resistance. That's what it stands for, resistivity, the capacity to resist. The Bible says, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. There is no temptation taking us, but as such is common to man. That's what the Bible says. But God will not allow you to be tempted above what you are able to bear, so that in the same temptation, God makes a way to escape. If you get trapped in a temptation and you fall, it's not because the thing was overwhelming. You didn't take the resources of the flow inside you. That flow must resist the flow. And that's how Jesus Christ did it. The Bible says he came among people. He didn't isolate. He chose to relate. And at the point they felt, look at this man, and he says a prophet. They call him to a party, come and eat, he will eat. Married, he will go. This one he will go. Socializing, eating with sinners, a friend of sinners, a wine bibber. And Jesus Christ said, when John the Baptist came, he was consecrated to fasting and praying. You say he has a demon. He will not eat. Look at him, always fasting. He has the devil. Me, I came now eating and drinking. You say I'm a backslider, compromiser. They called him a friend of sinners. The Bible says in Hebrews, he was separate from sinners. How did he mingle so much, being at the same place of work, in the same school, your bunkmate, everybody around you, they are not living right, but you are able to sustain that spirituality? Jesus role. That dimension of resistivity, I love that particular word, the resistivity, because you contain and you maintain, you sustain your sensitivity, knowing that you are a stranger here. Not every offer is going to come in a way. And as you look at this now, looking at those two ends of the variables, I found those variables that were told here that can be calculated as two ends. There's one I bring in my understanding of how it has applied to us. Number one is your heart. Number two is your act. How do you correlate the two? How do you measure these two ends? The volumes and the value that comes out of it. So this is essentially a call for us to understand how to focus on the matter of the heart, because that is the heart of the matter. So on one hand you have the heart, and the other hand you have your acts. And many times in the calculation of values and volumes, we speak such words like somebody's net worth. When you live a life that has RHO, your calculation is going to be from the outflow of your life. Jesus Christ said the net worth, and this is in fact clearly that the net worth of a person is not determined by the valuation of his possession, but by the true worth of his procession. The value of your life is not going to ever be your possession, but your procession. Go to the Bible. Jesus Christ in Luke chapter 12. I'm bringing this together for you piece by piece. We'll get there. And he said unto them, Luke 12:15, and Jesus said to them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. Your net worth is not your possession. That is where how the world calculates it. Your net worth is your procession. That's the true evaluation. It is good to satisfy the demands of earth and have the possession. Beautiful. It's going to help the gospel. It is not a wrong thing to be super rich. God can trust some people with the wealth of nations, of generations, because he knows they're going to use it for his kingdom. I was speaking to a particular woman from the US. I met her recently, and man, she didn't look it, but she's in billions. And all she does, she's not a pulpit woman. She doesn't sing, she doesn't preach. But if you know how much she sponsors of the kingdom projects, there are people on her payroll. She makes the money on the procession. She doesn't keep them. And yet God keeps embarrassing her. The more she gives, the more God gives. That was the expense of Colgate. You know Colgate? That toothpaste and some other products. When that man was an American businessman, he understood what God was demanding from him about giving a tenth. And he said, let's start. He was obedient to that. He was giving a tenth. If you read the story, you find that at the point he felt, this money is getting much. He began to give 20%, then 30, then 40. At the climax of his giving, Colgate was giving 90% out, keeping 10, and the 10 was still too much. Procession. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he has as possession. Your true worth is based on your possession. So I'm saying that because it's not as if it is wrong to be rich. We have to be in the way God wants us. So it's the ideology of poverty mentality, because it is a mark of my spirituality that I'm poverty. No, forget, you got it wrong. But then this is the matter. Your true worth before God. Because when God condemned that man who was rich, it wasn't because he made money. It was because he made money without God. I didn't care about God. The abundance of what he had got into his head, and he said, what will I do now? The harvest of this is so much. Okay, I'm going to pull down my old barn. I'll build a greater one. And I will say to my soul, take your ease. Eat, drink, and be merry, because you have many goods laid up for you for many years. And God said to him, you are a fool. You are a fool. Successful. That's what you are. You think you are successful? You are a successful. The problem was not making money. It was not about that. It was about not having his maker in his mind. And God said, those things you have provided now, whose shall they be? Because your soul will be taken. You're going to die now. And Jesus Christ concluded that matter and said, so it is with anybody who is rich in the things of this world and is not rich toward God. The balance ought to be there. But God's ultimate assessment is going to be your net worth based on your possession, not just your possession. And so the accurate thing is about what is on the outside should answer to what is on the inside. And you know, typically we understand that there's a reason for us to live that kind of life that want to have more and more and more. But can you please just understand that your function must never have a friction with your foundation. God intends that your foundation be well laid, and God can trust you. And I see it in my days. I see things happening that some of us have gone through some situations in life because God is pruning you, testing you, because He wants to trust you. And please mark my words, when that season comes, you may not know it's coming. The abundance of explosion into wealth will just come, because at that time God has dealt with you. He has killed you to yourself. When money comes, it doesn't enter your head. The riches come, influence will come. You rise to the height of your career, it doesn't make you bogus, doesn't make you think pompous. You just realize, all to you, all to you, I give it all to you. It does not happen overnight. God does several killings before that living happens. It is possible to live that life. Everyone wants to look good. Jesus Christ said nobody's naturally good, but the one that God can make good. And nothing good can proceed out of us ordinarily. That water is a picture. I don't know how it tastes, but I see it looking pure. Most water falls, by the time it gets to that point of falling, you see whitish something. That does not make it potable. But the beauty we can see is that there's cascading, and the water is pure white, as it were. Not because it's white, but because of the effect of the motion. The good water should not have color. But when you see the effect of speed or motion, it comes whitish. The thing is, how pure can that be? It's a function of the source. We can't determine by looking how good the water is, and if the flow of your life is going to be good. Because there can be negative flow. There are people, you come around them, the negative vibes they carry, the energy they radiate is terrible. And Jesus Christ understood that in the procession of life, that it's possible to have a negative procession, and it is absurd to say I carry Jesus and what flows out of you is negative. So Jesus Christ helped us to understand. We need to get into the point of knowing what is the source of this matter. The flow, the outflow, the overflow is a function of the fountain. Matthew 12:33. Matthew chapter 12:33. It says, either make the tree good and its fruit good, or else make that tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. The source. For the tree is known by his fruit. And Jesus Christ goes on to now talk to these people directly. Oh, generation of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? It's a desirable thing to want to be good, but have you taken time to carry the good of God inside you? That is what makes you godly. The nature of God in you is what makes you good. You are not good on your own. You can't be good on your own. Somebody came to us, oh, good master. Christ said, are you trying to realize that I'm the one that can be good alone? Say, no one is good except God. In other words, are you acknowledging me as God? It was a wisdom that God packaged into that statement and the utterance of his response. None is good. He didn't mean including himself. You call me good? Do you know that nobody is good except God? So are you inferring that you realize that I'm God? You cannot be good. Nothing good can flow out of you until God enters you. He's the one whose presence purifies your source. Do you know the miracle that Elisha did? when he just was fresh in the anointing that was double, and as he was moving, the men that were already as spectators thinking he was going to fail, when they saw that he prevailed, they had their prayer request coming to him. Sir, can you see this land? How does it look? It looks fine. Say there's more to this land than what meets the eye. The situation looks good, the land looks pleasant, but the water is not, and the ground is barren. Elisha asked for one thing: this water, Abi, let's not deal with it here. Where is the source? Bring me a cruse, new one, put salt. And when they brought to Elisha, he didn't just begin to treat the water. He said, where is the source of this water? He traced it, where the water was issuing from. The Bible says Elisha cast that cruse and the salt into that place. Say, from today, by the word of the Lord, I prophesy, and it took effect. Say, there shall be no more death nor barrenness in this land. From that moment, the waters were healed. What flows out of you cannot be good. Paul understood in chapter 7 of Romans. He said, the good I think to do is always evil. How to do good, I know what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. But every time I try to do good, I see myself gravitating towards evil. And in the best I can do of good, while I do good, evil is still present inside me. You can't be good. And what flows out of you cannot be good. The procession that flows out of your life cannot be good until, by the mercy of God, a casting of the name, the blood, the efficacy of that brother speaks better things can enter into your source, and your source is your heart. That is where the issues come from. It is from that point that whatever branches out of you begins to go good. The effect is beautiful, the impact is indelible. That is what it comes to. Oh, generation of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? And when you see your own life, maybe your language, maybe your lifestyle, maybe your dressing, if you are seeing evil, it is not because of any fancy. Something is wrong with the heart. That is scripture. When the propensity to want to do what the world is doing, and then maybe it catches your fancy, the way they are talking, utterances, it cannot just be accidental thing or slip of tongue. There's no such thing technically as slip of tongue. You only said it when you didn't want it to be said. If it was not there, it won't come out of your mouth. You can't speak a word that was not in your heart. It's like a drunk man who begins to talk some things. My people say, when a drunk man is talking, the drunkenness met something inside him. The drunkenness, the intoxication only made his brain talk. He can't control what he can say, but all the saying were not just coming, it was there before. So the door just opened ajar and it's pouring out. And he said, you said this. He said, I said that. I didn't mean it to. You didn't mean to say, but it was there. How can you be evil, speak good thing? Christ is saying, how can you have a procession of good if it is not in your possession, in your heart? It is there. When you begin to find yourself speaking something and your conscience pricks you, go and deal with your heart. Go to the source. Don't deal with the water in the outflow. Go to where it comes from. The heart of the matter is the matter of the heart. Jesus rule. The procession will see from the issues of life. Verse 35. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure. They are both treasures. The storehouse of the heart. If what is coming out is evil, it's because it's evil treasure, and it's because something is wrong. An evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. And this has been the unchanging uniform principle that's presented for us in a precept of God, God's word. And that's why we focus on rule, understanding that the matter of procession and the issues of life is a matter of the heart. We're going to dwell on that. Come with me please to Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs 4. This is what Jesus Christ came personally, practically to exemplify. That it's possible to live on earth. That is why he didn't come like an angel. Jesus Christ put on flesh. Bible says so he can become like his brethren. He could have come with some kind of immortal body and things that, but he wanted to prove to us it is possible to live in this corrupt world and have the issues of your life good. And that proves to the world that it's not natural. It's not natural. There are some systems and spaces you find yourself, you know that nothing good can come from there, but you stand there by God and you begin to defy the odds and do contrary to what is normal, because the normal is abnormal, and you redefine norms. Proverbs 4:23. I love this scripture. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Beautiful. Please take time to understand this and meditate. I'm going to break it to 5 things for you. I give it to you so I can go and do further studies. This scripture, if you can understand it and God can activate the reality of the mystery of this matter, you are going to live a life that's going to be issuing out good things for life. The devil cannot subject your life, because see, if the devil can catch your heart, he will influence your act. We act our hearts perceptibly or imperceptibly. Every single act is based on the heart. Keep thy heart with all diligence. Why? Because out of it are by God's arrangement supposed to be the issues of life. What must issue from your heart must be life. So if you don't keep it, you become an evil man who out of the treasure, it is still called treasure, but then the content of the treasure is a thing that brings God's displeasure. 5 things. Number 1, keep. Number 2, thy heart. Number 3, with all diligence. Number 4, for out of it. Number 5 are the issues of life. Number 1, keep is protection. Beloved, please protect your heart. Some of us become so conscious as you begin to age. You are going to look at that pack and see they draw the heart. They say it is good for your heart. You are eating that food because it's good for, because the heart is critical. So keep it. Protect your heart. And practically there are things that when you say, because your heart must be protected, you look away. I told myself on some principles as we go through the streets or go through town, once in a while you have things that bump into you accidentally. But do not think for any reason any bad sight, whether a person or a property, should deserve my second look. If you understand the value of your heart, that it must pump life, there are some things you can't indulge in. You can't stare at that thing and keep looking. If you are spiritual, see, there are some indulgence you have done. You saw that thing and then you look again. If you are sensitive, you will feel something is happening to your heart. You can go through the day, you have not consciously told a lie or done something, but you find that there's a reduction. Keep thy heart. And the devil knows the attack of the devil is not the surface. When he puts out women, libidinous women, loose licentious women, and they dress in a way to attract the opposite gender, particularly men. You know, the target is on the men most times. It is the heart he wants to destroy. And you go through that, you get on your knees, you can't pray. I told somebody my experience some years ago. And God, because when God knows it's accidental, it's a protection. But if it's intentional, you're on your own. I was just a young convert. That was 1992 or thereabout. I got born again 1990. I finished my polytechnic education, ND. I came to Lagos, back to Lagos to do my IT. I can't forget that spot, Ojuelegba roundabout. There was a bookshop there. I think it's still there right now. It's been there for a long time. I went there from my office near that area just to go and look for books to buy and things like that. As I was in that place, I was looking at the shelves. A lady just came right at my eye level, and what I saw, she had this top, a jumper. The skirt was low. I wasn't looking for her. She came to my eyes. When I saw that, what I felt, I won't describe in gravity, but you see the creeping from under the skirt. I realized later that was not just a human being. The complexion, everything. When I saw that, I knew no. I left my transaction, left that place, ran back to my office. Do you know, I spent over 1 hour to pray that arrow away from my heart. That is not me opening the book to go into pornography and all that. She just came. I saw. I forgot what I was going to do. I prayed. I was praying and sweating to send it out. If you value your heart, because if you know, if your heart stops beating, you are gone. No matter all you carry, once your heart stops, and there are people here who are dead, their heart is gone. It's just about act. Keep thy heart. What if, as I stood there, because you see, this is how it went. When I saw that, I said, who is this? When I saw the eyes, that was where I ran away. The eyes were so deep, it was as if somebody could fall into the pit. The seduction, my goodness. I've never met her before. I won't meet her again. But that day, she was planted. I don't know what the devil intends to do by that, because he felt this man has some potentials. Somebody could have seen that and indulged in that, and you leave that place. The next is masturbation. You can't break, because when you get to a point in masturbation, you know it's not just normal indulgence. A demon is involved. You need deliverance. You stop it, you start again. Every attack of the devil, every issue, every flow of the tides of darkness in this world is aimed at destroying the flow from your heart. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Number 2, thy heart. Why do you keep it? Because that is your possession. There must be a protection on your possession. That's all you have. If your heart is gone, your brain is gone. If your heart is gone, your hands are useless. All your talent, all your skill, all your intelligence are gone. Keep that possession. Prize it above all else. Be willing to do anything, to lose anything, to keep your heart. Keep your heart. Soldiers in the Roman standing description do not go bare chested. They have an armor, breastplate of righteousness. We treated that last year. Don't leave your conscience exposed. Value your heart, because out of your heart are supposed to be the issues of life. Don't let your fountain be contaminated. The thought of your heart, Jesus can say, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. Keep your heart. Number 3, with all diligence. That's passion. See, don't be lazy. Diligence. You can't be negligent and become excellent. You can't be negligent and become prevalent. You cannot have prevalence if there's no diligence. The hand of the diligent maketh rich in all areas, not just money. Diligence. work. It takes hard work because you are going to need to swim against tides. You don't just allow yourself to float. That is how it's happening everywhere. No. You know what God wants for your life, and it's happening like this. No, I must swim against the tide, and it takes effort. The life of least resistance is easy. Just drop there. The water is carrying you away. But if you must go to where God says go, you must swim, and the water is against your face. Do you know how aeroplanes lift up? I used to think they move with the air. No, the aeroplanes lift against the air. Wind is blowing this way, aeroplane will go that way. It's like the eagle, confronting, contradicting the normal. You can't live that life of God if you succumb to what is normal in this world. And the world will see you as abnormal. That is a good abnormality. Please be abnormal. Tell your neighbor, be abnormal. You can't be normal. It's not a cross. Because what the world calls normal is not normal. It's a supernormal life God wants you to live. Jesus' rule came to do that, to exemplify. Don't live a normal life. To live a normal life is to begin to live a subnormal life. Diligence. It is hard work, my brother, to keep your heart. Because in that heart, the enemy will throw darts sometimes. Fiery darts. That's why you need to maintain a conscience with a breastplate of righteousness. The Bible says, with which you can protect your conscience, and above that put a layer of the shield of faith. Because sometimes if you let it touch you, you may not die, but you will not some injury. So the best is to maintain a shield of faith with which you are going to quench the fiery darts of the devil. Ideas will come, thoughts will come, imaginations, things that are designed to subdue you, to silence you, and to make you feel like a deadlock on the tide. The flow is going this way. You will flow against it. It's not easy. Keep your heart with all diligence. Number 4, for out of it, that is where procession happens. So you see, protection, possession, passion, and procession. The procession, out of it. Out of it. It can be from somewhere else. The flow of your life will be from your heart. So you must do everything to keep a healthy heart. For out of it, not just from heaven dropping on you, every grace that God will channel will be directed to your heart. So you let it flow out. Not the one that pumps blood physically here. It's the core of your being. Your conscience, your life. Paul said, I always have a conscience void of offense toward God and toward man. Out of it. You don't allow your heart to issue what has not been certified by God as his own. Where is this coming from? A tendency, you kill it. Because if it doesn't go to that point of execution at the beginning, a trickle, before you know it, becomes a stream. The stream becomes a river. And then you begin to see yourself flowing, and you say, but this is not me. Who are you looking at? My heart is not permitted. Philippians tells us, whatever things are true, whatever is pure, of good report, lovely, beautiful, think on these things. Consciously you set your mind. I won't think evil. I won't think nasty. See, because these things, you are in this flesh. That's why Paul said, we don't do it yesterday and say it's over. I die daily. If your life is going to be issuing what God intends, you don't become negligent. You pray that prayer that they will know God gave you answer, but it's a new day. Give us this day our daily bread. And as it gives you the bread is for energy. So what you are asking, when you ask for bread, you are asking for a bonding. The bread brings strength. You eat to have strength. You are not living to eat. You are eating to live. When bread comes to you, it's supposed to give you breath. The bread of God is the breath of God. So every time God gives you bread, He gives you His breath. And that's what your heart is picking up and palpitating after God. So when the Bible says, God says, seek my face, my heart is also crying the same thing. Thy face, oh God, will I seek. Your heart must not lose alignment. Your heart must not get out of calibration. As Paul said in Colossians, set your affection on things above. See, there's no such automatic setting for your heart to be thinking of heaven. You are the one that will setting it, because you are seeing things. Your heart want to go. You say, no, you're not in charge. The spirit will fight the flesh. The flesh will fight your spirit. There's a flow, a confluence, a conflict. You are able to determine, no, this is direction. To leave your heart to run wild, you meet yourself where you never knew you could get to. How did I get here? One step at a time. The process, the condensation, the declension, the process of death. Paul said, no man is tempted by God. When you are tempted because of your own tendency. The devil studies your life. What is it? I can catch this one. This is your loss. He brings a temptation along that line. That's some people will not tempt with women because it's not their portion. But money, they fall. He will study you. You may not even know yourself, but the devil knows you. He's going to bring that thing. You are looking for scholarship. And you're saying, well, I know it's the funding is this, but it doesn't matter. I'll take it. He knows you are desperate. When lust has conceived, because you yielded, it brings sin. When sin becomes mature, like pregnancy, the day of delivery, what you see is death. So the day sin delivers the baby, you are gone. But you allow the pregnancy to grow all through the trimesters, and you had reason to have intercepted and aborted that nonsense. But you're culturing it. Out of it, watch what comes out of you. Watch the flow of your life. Number 5 are the issues of life. That's perfection. Life in its intrinsic nature, the essence of life is to attain to perfection. Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand there are pleasures forevermore. The source of this resource, the kind of resource that can get you results, must happen by your resolve. There's a source that has resource, and the result you command is a function of your resolve. Nobody accidentally becomes a carrier of life. Nobody. It has to be a resolve, a decision that this is what I want. That's the kind of life I want to live. A life that flows the purity of heaven. A life that the dead can come to and they touch that water in the river of life, bring them back to life. Reinvigoration takes place because the river that comes from heaven through the altar, and you are that altar. God will not bypass the altar and reach out to the outer life. The outer world will perish if there's no altar before God. That's why God said, I look for a man. People have done things that they have to die for. They must perish. But can I see a man that will stand between me and them? So I don't have to destroy them. But when God does not find a man, judgment comes. In the same way, nobody can carry life in the world there. It's a dead world. It takes a man who has known God, who was part of that and has now known God, to stand, and God channels that thing, and through him it transmits. The world will perish if the church does not get out of this impoverishment. There is That's why God has not committed the world's salvation to the hands of any other creature. We are that ambassador team. You are the light of the world, the salt of the earth. And God expects that your life must never enter a cessation in a connection with Him and in the communication of the content of heaven. We have this treasure inside earthen vessel. These are not vessels that you could assume that they have all it. We are weak, we are brittle, we are vulnerable, and yet God has chosen to invest His best in us. What a privilege. And you will be a betrayer if God has allocated that you are the one He's going to use to reach your family and you deny Him. Your life becomes worse than zero. You are on -1. You know, you have an assignment in class and this person violates all the rules and they say it's 0 and they say -3. That means your next assessment, whatever you get, the -3, because you are fake, you are still owing. I've seen that in class before, when school days. He did so bad. The man was so so insulted. You gave me this answer. He had 0, -5. Zero over 20 -5. So the next assignment came and the man was intent on doing it. I think he scored 8 or so. -5, he now had 3. Oh my goodness. It's a minus on your life. It's bad you are on 0, but you are less than 0. If God intends to challenge, see, and when you go to a place of work, that company, are you just there to earn money? Are you traveling out because you want to go and japa? That's small. That missionary spirit, that understanding that yes, I'm going to make the money and I will make the Messiah known here. We are the ambassadors and we beseech the world for Christ's sake. Be ye reconciled to God. Can your life be that channel that whatever it comes across, any flow, that river of chapter 37, I love that scenario. But anything where the rivers come into the desert, into the dry land, into the marshy area, whatever had died, once the river comes, it comes back to life. Can my life be like that? Issuing life. When will my life begin to make the impact that Jesus, just 3.5 years of active ministry, the world will not recover? You have been there in that place for 10 years. Nobody knows you are even there. Are you flowing? Or you are following them? What is damning that thing inside you? We can't derive this on our own. It has to be through Jesus' role. Psalm 36 verse 9. For with thee is the fountain of life. Orisuye. With you, Lord, is the fountain of life, and in thy light shall we see light. We derive all we need to carry from him. We can't produce it. We can't fake it. John chapter 1 verse 4, it was of Jesus said, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. You can't contain that kind of life. And because there's always that provision for progression in that procession, when you carry light sincerely, it is God's desire that the light will grow in intensity. Verse 4:18, the path of the just is as the shining light that shineth more and more. I love progression unto the perfect day. You must not have a better yesterday. Every single day there must be grace in incremental level on your life that makes your dimensions to change. For while we look at him, there's a change into his likeness. How can you tell me you were a better Christian last year? Something is wrong with you. Every single day must be better than the previous day. That is the default setting. Except you have got to tamper with God's setting of your life and begin to excuse it or even celebrate it. Or you can, those good old days. What happened to the better new days now? Can't there be a better day? Can't your path receive more intensity of illumination? Are you seeing better now than you used to see before? The same way you look at Bible, what you see, you still see. If you are really growing, if you have marked your Bible, literal Bible, when you go back to read that place, you see things you never saw before. Some people in ministry, they are always going to dust the old outline. You must preach a message. Say, I preached something like this before. And I'll go back and just change the date and come and preach the same thing. Dead man, dead minister, monster, called minister. God, the flow does not stop. I've come to understand that sometimes when God gives you a revelation to dispense, you are thinking, this is heavy, and you are thinking that's all. God says, no, keep that one out. You'll be amazed how much more God has, because when you encounter, you say, this is the ultimate. No, it's more than that. It is good to be here, fine, but it's better to go down. You can't say because I've encountered God, Christ on the mountain, yeah, this is the ultimate. It can't be met. That's introductory. It is good to be here, but better to go down. Go and tell the world you saw. If you are there, who will benefit? That encounter, that revelation, and that is all. How many years ago? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? That is your testimony forever. Something has stopped that flow. Jesus said in chapter 8 verse 12, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. How much of the flow of the light does your life transmit? There are some people who have spiritual opacity. The substance of their life is opaque. They're not transparent, not even translucent. Light comes, they trap it down. It doesn't go through. You are a traitor. You are betraying the witness that the world should have of Jesus in you, the hope of glory. I provoke you today to challenge you, to let you know that look, we have no reason not to flow. Every single thing. Paul said, I realized with the diligence he had, he said, I am always conscious of this. I am striving, struggling, putting all effort, because I realize there's a dimension of the droppings of God constantly in me, and I'm always committing myself to working out what is working into me, striving according to his working that worketh in me mightily. Some of us, God has stopped working mightily because you have done nothing about it. He has not cut you off, but he has cut down on your allocations. All the revelations you got, what did he do with it? Because it was a waste of investment. Let's just let him be living. Let us be living. What a life. I feel like crying, because I see a generation that is settled, and yet have not been mantled. You know, we can boast of this dimension, operation. It's more than this. Can you pray that God just give you a glimpse of reality, then you know how to silence this thing that's rising to let you know you're celebrating, especially with the titles you begin to carry? I don't understand. I can't understand. You can't explain to me why it is that people who have not begun to live begin to bring titles on themselves and rob themselves of their destinies. Just that pride to show off what you are not. What is is the flow that qualifies you to carry that thing. Every calling has a requisite impartation that speaks for itself. When the glory comes, you don't need to talk about it. The glory will speak and talk its own story. Please take to heart these few things. Number one, your procession will affect your progression. How much of a flow, the raw dimension in you, how raw it can be, how real it can be. The measure of your procession will determine the dimension of your progression. That's why it appears on people, they run so fast. It's not because they have speed. They allow the flow. Paul said, I do not frustrate the grace of God. I do not. Once I know it's from God, I give it expression. Yeah, it's costly sometimes to obey God. I'm looking at my comfort. How convenient it is. Some of you are here seated. By this time, in God's allocation, there are things you should have been doing, and you know it. And the devil has succeeded in replacing that thing with something else. And you are content with that. Time will tell. You will know the valuelessness of what you have valued all your life. Jesus was never dry. And if, as he is, we ought to be, that we know it must never be our experience. The appointment to pray, it won't be easy to keep it. But diligence. I told a young man just the other day, I said, look, you know what, you want to pray? Don't kneel down. Don't kneel down. You will sleep off. That's the way you feel that you know the posture in prayer should not be kneeling, because you start snoring. Rise up and walk. Also, J. Smith, that missionary man, statesman, he said, I have realized that I need to pray so much, but there are times I feel so weak, and if I kneel down after a hard day's work, I will sleep. It's not devil, it is my body. I get up and I'm praying. I'm walking around and walk. Let the devil that wants to make me sleep I know I need deliverance now. If I'm walking and I'm sleeping, something is wrong with me. It's confirmed now. I need deliverance. And the man said the journey I've taken while walking, he was in the US, he was described, it's almost as if, imagine if, for example, you do prayer work maybe within your room or outside your compound, and you do it for 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe every day. Calculate 3 hours, 10 days, 30 hours. If you are walking from here to a place 30 hours, you know where you will reach? The man said the journey I've taken in my room, I've forgotten the 2 states in America. It's like 2 extremes of America. I will have walked and reached there. Can you walk like that and be a walkabout before God? Can you walk with God in prayer and God will not exalt some things about your life? Won't God begin to hear and hearken to the prayer you pray? Murdering your sleep. Your body says sleep. He said no way. You can't get this one. There's a flow to sleep, but my flow, he said no. Stand on your watch. Lift up your eyes to the hills. Lift up your voice beyond the hills. Lift up your hand. Your young children who die for hunger in the top of every street, because when the spirit of intercession comes on a man, God takes your sleep. There's a price to pay for every rise you make. You can't just find yourself at a height. It is an understanding that that height is my right, and to get to the height I must engage in a fight. You can't enter your right without a fight. You will fight your way into that dimension. Your source and resource will define your direct results. Where you draw from, I come to draw, draw from you again. Hey. You understand that every time you come there, you meet something, why don't you go often? Have you gone to God and say, I want to draw, and you find emptiness and dryness? No, sir. If we don't flow, it's because we don't go there. To the river, I am coming. And Lord, I long to meet you there. Before you get there, it's waiting for you. If there's no flow, it's because you choose not to follow. Every time you follow him, you enter a flow. Out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. Your motion into manifestation of your God-given mission will be made possible by the motivation you have that's produced by the substance of what flows and outflows and overflows from the inside of you. So much deadness everywhere, and God is trying to set us up as individual channels. That if I believer properly, he that believeth on me, as the scripture said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. The liquid that brings life. And of course, your flow, your outflow, your overflow will be powered by the one whom you follow. I submit to you, if you say you are following God and you're not flowing God, you have missed it all. Following God, not flowing God. The flow of you. See, what flows out must be God. It can't be something else. Either make a tree good and its fruit good, or make it evil and its fruit evil. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. A corrupt tree cannot bring forth good fruit. The results of your life. I'm not talking about trying to compare with people, because God gives allocations. There are dimensions of glory, and we have no business competing with anybody. That is the greatest deliverance you can give to yourself. Not to look at somebody and try to be that person. Who are you? Your allocation may be just a talent. That is your 100%. If you trade, you get 1 out of 1, you are okay. God will not give you 1 and expect to get a result of 5. The man who has 5, if he gets 3, he has failed. God wants 100% of achievement of all he gives you. Everyone has a gift, has a grace, has a calling. I met a man, I went to a conference years ago, and I understood, I was humbled back there. I understand what it means to have fruitfulness. Because many times we talk of overflow in our churches. We're looking at the crowd that extend here and there, and yet in the overflow, the glory does not overflow. This man, I think he has a PhD. I mean, solid, intelligent man. To interact with him. He's calling. He went to a jungle because God said, go there. This was a man who would have gotten a good job and good offer and car and everything. And God said, I'm calling you to the jungle. And he left everything, go there. He started by thatch roof and all that. You can see where he lives. Among the natives. That man will not be sung. There's a hero that will be unsung. But there will be sung in heaven. Apart from people you never see on the pulpit. But they understand allocations. They understand investments of their all to fulfill the purpose of God. Your result, it will be based on your resource and your resolve. All of this is tied to your source. Get the source. There's a resource in the source. If you can understand what it means to be who you are meant to be, then make a resolve. I will fulfill this mandate. Then your result will be corresponding. Don't look for the result that God has not given you a resource for. flow fully. It may be a small channel, fill it. Maybe a big canal, fill it. The major thing is fill that space. The man with the 5 talents came and said, again 5. The Lord said, good servant, faithful, enter into the joy of your Lord. The one with the 2 came and said, Master, you gave me 2, I traded, I gained 2 more. They are both 100% too. 5 gain 5, 100%. 2 gain 2, 100%. 1, he said, you know, I know you're always demanding too much. You are an austere man. You like to reap where you don't sow. So I went to hide that thing. And the master said, you know I'm an austere man and I like to reap where I don't sow. You are a wicked man. And you couldn't just go and give that into the money changer so that it can gain interest for me at my coming. You gave me the way I gave you. You didn't lose it all. I fear God. He didn't say where I buried it, I can't find again. As you gave me, take it. You gave it back to me as I gave you. Carry him. Punishment forever. And that one, give it to somebody else. Many of us think God is going to assess us on you didn't do the thing to the point where you can't see it again. You will not lose it. You give it to him and say, the way you didn't trade. You are a wicked man. It is wickedness. This has to come as it's coming to. It is wickedness, not weakness. For you to have grace from God, and you block the flow. You refuse to flow as much as God is flowing into you. You block it because of fear of men. You block the flow of God. You are not as effective as you ought to be because you are not diligent. You know, the psalmist was praying a prayer, and it was not in a place where it was natural to expect fruitfulness. The Bible says in Psalm 63, the caption, if you have your Bible with those kind of caption, it says it's a Psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. It was not in the palace. It was not a setting that was conducive. It was in the wilderness of Judah. He said, oh God, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul is thirsty for you. Have you not lost the thirst for God? My soul is thirsty for you. My flesh longeth for you. In a dry and thirsty land where no water is. What's my intention? What is my attention? What is my affection? God, what's my attraction? To see your power and to see your glory, so as I have seen you in the sanctuary. I have had an encounter with you. I want that to be a perpetual reality. I don't want a one-off. I don't want a touch and go encounter. I don't want to be telling story. I encountered God some years ago. Did I encounter God this morning? To see your power and your glory, so as I have seen you in the sanctuary. And it's not say I have to be there to see you in the wilderness. I can see you here. Your location is not your limitation. Don't blame where you are. Don't blame whose control is over your life as a boss. In the wilderness of Judah, he was longing. There's no water here, but I need this freshness from inside me. I want to see your power and your glory. Not in church now, not in the temple, in this place. I can see you here. The way I saw you in the sanctuary, I want to see you here. I want to see you. I want to experience you, because I know it's possible. It's possible. My soul, this is secret. My soul followeth hard after God. Thy right hand upholdeth me. There's an intensity with which your mobility must be set after God. You can't follow God and be passive. My soul follows hard. That word is used when you see two soldiers engaging themselves in a battle, and one seems to say, let me run, and is running, the other one begin to pursue, but say he followed hard. That means you are following with an intention of meeting up with him and finishing him, catching him. You're not just trotting after him. Follow hard means you increase your speed, your energy, everything, so you can double your speed to catch up. This man said, God, I know you're not running from me, but there's a move. I can't stop your move, but Lord, I'm following hard. Intensity, the pursuit of God. My soul follows hard after you. But you know, the contents that God can pour into you to flow into the world cannot exceed the extent to which you allow him to expand you, to expose you, to enlarge you. God has what it takes to enlarge the capacity. There's more that God to pour into me, into you, and I don't need the world to give an accolade for this. I just want to serve this God, known or unknown. Who cares? Just to be faithful. I have always wanted one passion. God, I want to be a true man. I want to serve you. I didn't come to the kingdom because I want people to know me. What drove me in was not ambition after God. I'm not in ministry because I want to blow God, but I want to flow. I want to carry you. There's more to this thing than being known. There's a God who rewards good and faithful servants. Some of these motivations are the reasons why people dry up. God must expand. The narrowness you carry cannot carry what God wants to show. And because God will not waste that thing, He will not give you. He keeps saying that you are not making effort to expand. I can't reduce this thing because of you. This is the volume of the value you are meant to carry. This is your destiny. And this Jesus commands your destiny. You can't ask him to reduce that thing because you are narrow. He has given you all it takes, all that pertains to life and godliness to expand. So when you reach that point, it can store. It can store. Principle of God: if you are not open to elasticity, you are not open to expansivity, there's some reality God will not drop in you. You don't have an idea of it, and yet it is yours waiting. You never grow to that point. Galatians 4 verse 1 say, the hair, as long as is a child, perpetual immaturity, he will live like a servant. Even though he's the potential owner of everything, he will not get his possession, because his possession does not allow progression. You're not increasing, you're not growing in grace and in the knowledge of Jesus Christ. God wants to expand, God wants to increase. And the reason why many of us are stagnated and we can't run, it's not because of any devil. It's because our hearts are too narrow. And I'd like you to look at this as we begin to commit ourselves to God. I look at this psalm and it blew me. Every time I read, it blows me. I have not recovered from the encounter with this verse every time I read it. Psalm 119 verse 32. I will run the way of thy commandments when thou shalt enlarge my heart. I've discovered that there are too many crippled people in our generation who cannot run. They won't run. And the reason that they will lose mobility The reason why they will not enter into manifestation is because the frigidity about their nature. Jesus Christ says, men do not pour new wine inside old bottles. It will be a waste. God is looking for the freshness that when He pours more, you expand more. But the old bottles, they were made from wine skin. They were not breakable bottles. Wine skins, animal skin. They tied them up, sewed them, they are leak proof. So you pour thing. Over time, you have been using that thing. A time comes because of sun and weather and all that. The wine skin has expanded to a point where it can't go further. It has reached its elastic limit. And if you are going to pour new wine into that thing, new wine has the capacity by its feature to ferment and increase. So you pour 1 liter of new wine into a container. In a few days, it becomes 1.5 liters. It will increase in volume. So God Christ said, you don't pour new wine into old bottles that have not allowed any space to grow again. Because if you do that and you fill it up, by the time the new one is expanding, the old skins that can't expand, you just say, bah! Explosion. That's the idea Christ was saying. Because if you do that, the wine will increase in volume, the bottle will break, and then you lose the bottle, you lose the wine. So God will not give you some things because you are not going to expand. The flow of God through you will be based on your capacity to follow, to see, and to know more and more. God is calling everybody. God is calling me. It's a condition called heart enlargement. In the medical science, it is a sign of a problem because of stress or some eating disorder or some matters that that just wrong. It means your heart increases beyond its normal size. But in the spiritual, it's a prized reality that God can encounter by the word He gives you, that heart of yours, and change it so that there can be a flow. And as Jesus was, so you can be. So you can be. Glory should increase. And God is here to give an overflow. It's not enough as a covenant child of God, as a Christian testifying, I have blessings or possessions. While you undergo the blocking of a procession, what I believe God is going to do here today is to help us with the grace He's giving right now to go back to all we have lost. If everybody has been flowing the way they should flow, I'm telling you, the world will have been a better place. The enemy is intentional, very tactical, very brutal. What it does every time is, if he sees a part of you that will flow, he wants to block it. Go and read your Bible. I don't want to go into that anymore. Abraham carried a covenant, he transferred to Isaac. Chapter 26, from verse 12, you read down. Isaac was a covenant child, became a man, and the Bible says he had possessions, cattle, sheep, everything. And yet with all the possessions, he was committed to securing the access point for processions. So he caught the idea, something helped my father. My father was a well digger, not for labor, for money, but it was a resource. It would cause him to break through clutters of red earth and stone and all that. When I was doing my borehole, I was surprised how many layers of rock and soil they were bringing out. I saw color brown, blue, green, pink, orange, several colors. And they are saying as they are drilling the bit into the ground, they will dig out the thing that they found there and brought down. We lined it across the wall, almost 10 types of soil and rocks they were breaking through. When the man that was digging my borehole got to a point, say, Pastor, I have found water, but you know, I want you to have better water. I'll still go down. We found water, but we can go deeper. And the man sank more pipes and kept, it was extra for him. He kept digging. He said, there's water and it's good, but we can go down more. So Isaac began to understand there was something about my father being a well digger, because in that river there was a flow. But you know what the devil did through the Philistines? The moment Abraham died, those men came together. They began to block the wells that Abraham dug. No more flow. But Isaac said, I'm not called to do something extraordinary and new. I know the spot he dug those wells. But Isaac went back to begin to redig the wells which his fathers have dug. I certify you, there were wells our fathers dug. Our generation is not committed to digging wells. We just want free water, surface water. But you know, contentions began to come because this man will have a consecration to digging well. As he dug the first well, the Philistines came and said, no, you can't have the well. They found water. He said, no, it's our well, it's our own. Isaac left that place. He went somewhere else. He called that one Sitna. Contention, opposition, battle. He dug another well. They came there and said, it's our well, it's our water. He left that one. He called it Sitna. And he went to another place. The Bible says he dug that one, and his men say we found water. And the scripture said for that one they did not contend, and he named that place Rehoboth. Now the Lord has made room for us. We found water here. We shall be fruitful in the land. It takes tenacity to keep on digging. Whatever is opposing your flow, you don't follow along that thing. You choose to swim against the tide. We have resources at our disposal, and there's nothing the devil can do if we will not let him. God is calling somebody here, and I see you can sense the digging. God is already starting the work, initiating a move in your inner man, digging deep into you, because there's some flow that the world is waiting for. Don't let the world waiting for you die of thirst. The water you must give must bring life. If people die that you're supposed to touch with your life, you'll be accountable. People you should reach, place you should go for God, but because of unfaithfulness, because of unrighteousness, because of some kind of compromise that is needless, you block your well. It's not the devil now blocking you, you are blocking yourself. Bow your heads. Holy Spirit, you are the ultimate well digger. You are the one who gives the river of life. You are the one, you are the one, you are the one. So we come to you today, Lord. We come to draw. Holy Spirit, please, in your mercy, just visit every son, every daughter. Break through the clutter. Break through resistance. Put desire back in your son. Those who have lost their vibes, who have lost the assessment of true value. There's no flow anymore. You pray, you can't flow. The Bible has no flow. The devil cannot have the final say. We are going to redig here today. We will redig again. The water is still down there. We are the ones who have not gone under enough. Can you pray and say, Father, take me deeper, oh Lord. I don't care the bruises. I don't care what I will go through. I want to go. I am tired of surface spirituality. Jesus, roll.
I want to draw.
You are real for me, Lord. I like you if you feel the compulsion to be on your knees. Please get on your knees before God and let's dig. Oh my God. There's a posture of travail I see in the spirit. If men has brought my flow. I'm more than this. There's more to me. There's more to me. The world must not be dry. Because I am here, my environment cannot be dry. I am here to irrigate systems. I am here to supply energy. I am here to generate power. Hydroelectric power generator. I can be a turbine for Jesus. I can generate fire. Make a flow so that life along my trail can become the reality that people come to know. Yes, Lord. I'm not praying for you here today. You pray. It's your digging. It's your well. How you want it. How deep you want to go. You can go. Cannot remain dry. I command with you, oh God, in the fountain of life.
Draw from you alone.
In the lights, we shall see light. Take heaven's dispensation. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. A breaking. Layers are breaking. Layers are breaking. Layers are breaking. Layers are breaking. We can't end this prayer here today. We can't exhaust it today. I just introduce you. Please, you leave this place to continue the prayer in your houses. Holy Spirit, please break through. Have your way now. Where's that daughter? I see a daughter. I see a daughter. I see a daughter. I see a daughter going down. Jesus, Lord of the seat. I will dig a little deeper. I will dig a little deeper. Yes, deeper yet. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of God, as the waters cover the sea. The earth shall be filled. God wants to flood the nations. God wants to flood your environment. Jesus wrote, that is how he came, to flood the world with light. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I will dig. I will dig. I will dig. Hey, receive grace to dig. Oh, yeah. Dig. There's more down there. There is more down there. Dig. Until you plant into the water. Until you plant, when you get there, you know. Holy Spirit, I see offices that are unoccupied. God, can you have mercy here today? I see vacancy in offices where men should be. I see mountains that are yet to be claimed. I see graces that are fallow. Can you dig? Can you dig? Yes, Lord. Whatever is blocking your channel, can you pray fire? Can you pray fire? Can you pray fire? Don't do it now. Every blockage to the entrance of my well. That's why we keep, Lord. That's why we keep. I don't intend to stop this flow, but I'm going to call 2 sets of people. The second will be the birthday people for this month. I'm mindful of that. But I want to ask those who need assistance. Find your way. You want to crawl, you want to walk, you want to anyhow, just come to the altar. Let's get to this place. Let's receive tools to dig. Come to the altar. Assistance to go deeper. Assistance to begin to receive life flow. The flow of life. I'm not praying special prayer. I'm going to just count up to 12. There's a dimension in the 12 that we see in the patriarchs. How the Bible tells all the sons of Jacob in their numbering of the 12. You know, they were moving in the wilderness. The Bible said they came to a point where there was no water, it was bitter. But beyond that, God put water into sweetness. The Bible said after Mara, they came to a place where there were 70 wells. We're above 70 here, but there's a well for everybody. I don't know what broke your well, but I'm commanding my God, channels right now. I stretch my hands right now. Time is gone. I can't lay hands, but I'm releasing the capacity for debts. I'm going to count 12. 12. The tribes are here. Israel is receiving activation. 1. Go deep. There's a debt you belong to. There's a place you belong to. 2. 3. 4. Somebody is digging an anointing. I see wells of fire. Liquid fire. Hey, I see molten magma. Anointing and make it. Hey, take it, daughter. Take your flow. Every power that blocks your flow, by the word of the Lord, I command them to perish. Take your water. 4. 5. 6. The tribes are here. Who shall roll the stone from the well's mouth? It is time to water the flocks. It is time to water the flocks. The Bible said the sun was up. Men say it is not time to water them. But Jacob came to that well. One man. The stone must be rolled by several men. But the energy of God came on Jacob. Single-handedly, he rolled the stone. I rolled the stone now. Open up. Open. I open the well. Your flow. Hey, my God. Receive your openings. Your openings. All over this place. Be open. Ephata. Your fountain open now. Your fountain open now. Your fountain open now. Receive your opening. Open. Ephata. Your well open. Your fountain open. Your streams open. Channels. Out of your belly. Rivers. Receive your flow. Receive your flow. Receive your flow. Flow. I'm in a hurry. But the lasting effect will be there. Receive your flow. Take it. Receive it now. Hey, my God. Somebody's getting it. Somebody's having it. No flow. Take it. Every blockage, I crush barriers. Take it. I crush limitations. Receive it now. Fire of the Holy Ghost. Take it. Flow. Receive it. Resistance, give way. Ay, 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 ay. My Father, Holy Ghost. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Take it. Your flow is here. Oh, my God. I see liquid fire. Ay, 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 ay. Flow, flow, flow. Nations are waiting. You can't be dry. The flow. Limitations break. Oh yeah, break, 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 break. Receive the flow. Receive the flow. No procession. Issues of life. Issues of life. No more flow of death. No more sickness. No more infirmity. No more limitations. Take it. Take it. Take it. Take it. Take it. Nations are waiting. Ah, Oluwa. Receive it now. My God. The waves are getting deeper. Fountains are breaking up. Ah, my Jesus. It must not stop now. Rivers. Only ye. Only ye. My Father. It is yours. It is yours. It is yours. Limits break. Ah, bondage break. Take it. The world is waiting for your wetness, for freshness. Where I am, no more dryness. No more dryness. No. You can't be there. And these are dry. Where's your river? I call it forth. River of life for the nations. Yes, take it some. Take it some. Take it. Take it. Receive the infilling. A drunkenness is taking place right now. And I see a river of fire.
Let it flow. Let it flow.
Yes.
Let it flow.
I'm still counting. 7, 7, 8. Cascading is here. From your heights, every place you fall to, power generates. Impact. Impact. I command wetness everywhere you go. Blessedness of rivers. Out of your belly, son. It flows. You play on the ultimate note in the spirit. It's beyond sounds. Receive it now. The altar is back, everybody. A flow that never ends. Yes, Lord. I commission you for the nation.
Oh, let it flow right here, right now. And as the river flows, it begins to bring every death into life. It's a life-giving river. Oh, let it flow right here, right now.
God will dispense it after your assignment here. So there will be no distractions. Ah, Oluwa, his daughter. Bigger than what you are. I see expansion. Hey! 8, 9, 10. for a sign. A sign. A sign. Take now. Beyond your capacity. Expansion for more. Thank you, Jesus. Confirm your word. Take. 11. It must bear. It must bear. It must bear the sign of life. Take it some. Yes, I see flows. I see finance. I hear children. The flow of Holy Ghost. Let me pray for pregnant people next time. Please pardon me. You are free to go. I'll pray for September people next time. This must not end. Not here. The digging continues and I see